Okay, I think we're now ready to actually do the install of the version of Ubuntu that we're going to use for the rest of the class. So the first step, of course, is to download the file. So I'm going to launch the browser of my choice, and I'm just going to type Ubuntu. And I'm just going to hit the first one, download. Okay, now here's where you really have to pay attention because there's an awful lot of stuff. The desktop version, that's probably the most popular version that people have seen. That is not what I want you to do. So please pay attention and follow instructions. I want the server version. So I'm going to click on the button that says server. Yeah, I accept all that stuff. So here's the thing where you can download, and I want the 24.04, the last digit doesn't matter, but 2404 LTS, that's the long-term support version, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and click this guy, and if it, I particularly don't really care about all this stuff, so I'm going to leave this part alone. And now it's beginning to download my file. So due to magic of video editing, I'm going to speed this process up. Okay, I've got my file downloaded. So I'm kind of done with this website. What I've downloaded is an ISO file, which is like an image of a CD or DVD drive. Okay, cool. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to launch Oracle VirtualBox. So there we go. I already have a virtual machine running here, but that's okay. So I'm going to go here and hit new because we're going to build us a brand new one of these guys. So I'm going to hit new. And I'm going to call, I usually give it the class name, but you don't have to do that. I mean, this is just a listing in VirtualBox. It doesn't have anything to do with the real operating system. So I'm going to call mine CIS4335 Ubuntu or something. Actually, I'm probably going to call it server because later on we are going to install the desktop version, but not now. And so here's the folder location of where you want to put this. Now, in my case, I have a separate drive that I put this stuff on, but whatever the default is probably fine. It wants to put it in your own profile, under your own user thing. And that works, unless, of course, you're running out of disk space and you need an external drive or something. And then the ISO image. So I'm just going to download this guy. Download it. I'm going to click on this guy and then click on the guy. Okay. So it's already figured out that the addition and type and all that stuff, and I'm going to hit this skip unattended install, okay? That means I want to see the prompts. It'll bring it up and then you have to do your thing. So that looks good to me. I'm going to hit next. Okay, and then you have the choices on how much memory and how many CPU processors that you should grant to this thing. So the green area shows that's safe. Anywhere in here would be about right. I typically use 3 gig, so that's 3072. That's typically what I do. It seems to be a sweet spot. And on my machine, you can see how much green I have. I can afford to give it 2 CPU cores. Makes things run a little faster. So 3 gig is fine for Ubuntu, and 2 cores, that's great. And then hard drive. And so one of the things you have to do here is pick the size. And to tell you the truth, I'm not certain. 32 seems to be a good number. So 32 it is. 32 gigabytes. And I'm going to say next. And then it kind of gives me a summary. So I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. But now I'm going to actually go look at it. So now that I got this guy, I'm going to hit the little settings button. This basically just allows me to go through and look at things. So let's just go through it. We are going to later turn on the shared clipboard and drag and drop. We're not doing that right now. Description, system. This is what we just talked about. How many processor cores. And if you have it, display. I'm going to go ahead and give this mine a lot more display than that. I'm going to go ahead and give it 64 megabytes because I will perhaps want to expand this thing to be a little larger. I'll only have one monitor, and I'm going to leave the scale factoring the way it is for the time being. That's fine. And we're not doing anything fancy here, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Storage is okay. So what it's showing me is I have a SATA controller with this hard drive in it that's not a real hard drive, right? It's a 32 gig fake hard drive. And then I mounted a CD-ROM in a fake CD-ROM drive. Cool. Audio, I'm going to leave at the zone. Network, we're going to leave that at NAT. Later on, we're going to change it, but for right now, NAT. Serial ports, I don't care about that. USB, we are probably going to do something with this a little later. I'm going to go ahead and tell it I want the USB 3. Okay, it might speed things up a tiny bit. Shared folders, we are going to do that, but not immediately. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK button. So now you have a fake machine with a fake CD-ROM drive with a fake CD-ROM in it. And so what would you do if this was a physical machine? Well, you'd hit the power button, and the machine would boot up, detect the CD-ROM, and then it would go. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm just going to hit the start button and see what happens. So my choices are try or install, and then do something with some other kernel and test memory. Clearly, I'm going to use the up arrow key because remember, we don't really have a mouse working here yet. I'm going to use up arrow, and I'm going to say try. Actually, I'm going to do an install. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the button here. And up and running. And a bunch of gobbledygook. We are going to talk about what all you're seeing on the screen, but not now. Okay. So we just wait. Okay. So once again, I'm using the arrow keys. So yes, I have an English language. And then it basically says, hey, there's a new installer available. And do you want to go ahead and do that? I tell you what, I'm going to continue without updating just to make this run a little faster. Okay. At home, you probably could go ahead and update to the new installer. But for us, it's okay. And then the layout for the keyboard, I'm going to just hit the done button. And then what kind of thing are we doing? Yeah, I want a full Ubuntu server. Okay. So again, I'm just going to hit the done button. It basically has detected the network card I have, and it says, hey, is this how you want to do this? I go, yep, you're just fine. Hit the done button again. Proxy address, we're not using any of that, so hit the done button once again. And then it's going to go through and figure out in just a second where all this stuff is. Now, these are where the updates are, okay? And to start with, this is where it would go to get updates. So I'm going to get done again. And then it says, hey, man, which disk do you want to use? Well, I only have one fake disk, and it's that VirtualBox guy that's 32 gig. So I'm going to tell it, you can have the whole thing. Now, this one is kind of weird. See how before the default was always this green down here at the bottom for done? Well, since this is kind of scary, you don't accidentally want to be installing on the wrong hard drive, so they don't make that the default. So I'm going to hit enter. And then it says, here's how we're going to partition it. We will talk about this later. So right now, we're just going to hit go, done. And then it says, oh, man, are you sure? Again, this is kind of scary. If we were not in a virtual environment and we were trying to install this on a physical machine with a physical D drive, I'd be really, really nervous. But since that's not the case, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue here. All right. And then your name. Now, the name here is what it's going to be viewed as. So I'm going to type in my name with a space and all that. Okay, cool. Now, I really want you guys to follow the exact same thing that I'm doing. So I'm going to hit the tab key and I'm going to type server 1. Okay, that's what I want the machine name to be, server 1. Okay, tab. Now, here's the weird part. Usernames in Ubuntu are lowercase, no spaces. So I'm going to just take my name and just make it all lowercase and then cram it together. So I'm going to be Emmett Gray like that. And password. Now I'm going to use CIS, 4335, and then in parentheses the year 2024. Tab, capital CIS 4335, parens 24. Okay, if I did it right. Okay, it says, man, we're getting ready to do this. So Pro for security, I don't really care about that, so I'm just going to skip that. So once again, I'm just going to hit, because we are going to be talking about, some really cool security features, but not at this time. So I hit go. It says, do I want to install an SS server? No, I do not. We are not going to be remotely connecting to this thing. We're always going to be using Ubuntu. So if you wanted to have this thing in the real world, where you would connect to it remotely, but that's not the case here, so I'm done. This is just basically a bunch of stuff, and I'm just going to say, yeah, whatever, dude. And get down to here, ignoring all of this stuff, and hit done. Okay, and then it basically is off and running. Okay, that took a while, but it wasn't terrible. So what we're going to do now is, I don't want to view the full log, but I'm going to go ahead and just do reboot now. It says, please remove the installation. To tell you the truth, it's already been removed, so that's kind of an odd thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit the enter button. I'm going to scoot this over a tiny bit. Okay, now we actually got the login prompt. It's kind of up there. Now, unfortunately, we also got a bunch of other messages on the same time. This happens occasionally. And so it's actually at the server login prompt, but you can't really tell. So what I'm just going to hit the enter key, and that'll just repeat the prompt so you can see what the heck you're doing. It's a little annoying. It doesn't happen all the time, but enough for to make this annoying. So I'm going to type in my username, which is EMMETGRAY, and CIS4335 2024. Boink. Okay, so ta-da! Behold the power of the command prompt, because this is all you get. You don't get a GUI in the server thing. Now, there's a couple of things we're going to do that, quite frankly, I am not going to explain. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll explain them later. So right now, I just want you to do them. And I promise we'll explain later. So what I'm going to type in, I'm going to type this command. By the way, all these commands are in the lecture notes. So, I mean, the stuff, not lecture notes, stuff in supplemental material. So you should be able to follow along without to. I'm going to type sudo space apt-get update. This is what's going to go out and I do have to give it my password one more time. CIS4335. Oops. I think I may have fat fingered that. Yeah, I did. Okay, what this is going to do is go to the location where the update servers are located and update the update. Okay, and then I'm going to do it again. Sudo apt-get. This time I'm going to say, instead of update, I'm going to say upgrade. And then say, hey man, we need all this stuff. I'm just going to hit the enter and sit back and watch. This generally doesn't take too long to do. So basically what we're getting is we're getting security updates. Remember during the prompt, they said, hey man, you want to get the security updates to begin with? And we said, no, we'll do it later. This is later. I'm going to pause this just because it's going to take a while. Okay, it did apparently some updates of some services. And once again, I'm going to use the arrow key or tab key, or hang on, I got to get focus here. Arrow key, and I'm just going to assume that everything they're talking about is legit. I hit tab, and I'm going to hit the OK button. And then we'll let it do its thing. And okay, we're cool. All right, so we're almost there. We basically got all the updates that we need, right? Okay, so I'm going to do a reboot now, just to show you how that works. So it's just you type the word reboot. That's it. Later, I'm going to show you how you can do a shutdown. These are just like a real machine. You can't just go pull the power plug off the wall. You are going to have to kind of sort of pay attention, right? Okay, so we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. So this is a good place to stop, and we'll continue again in part 2.